horrible. Sometimes a house keeps memories long after the people inside it are gone. Footsteps echo when no one is home. Phones ring when nobody has touched them, and something quiet, something patient, moves where it shouldn't. After my grandmother died, our apartment changed. It wasn't loud, it wasn't violent, it was subtle, like the way a person watches you from behind a half-closed door. And if you listen closely, you can still hear it. The slow, deliberate footsteps that began the day she was gone. Footsteps that didn't belong to anyone living. I grew up in a routine that felt safe, warm, and predictable. Both of my parents worked early in the morning, long before I had to be awake for school. So every day, without fail, my father would carry me half asleep to the car, drive me through the still dark streets, and drop me off at my grandmother's apartment. She lived in an old building, a place that always smelled faintly of warm rice, cinnamon tea, and the wooden floors she cleaned every morning. My grandmother was soft-spoken, gentle, and deeply protective. And even though her apartment was small, it felt bigger than any home I ever lived in because she filled it with warmth. Every day, she made me breakfast, packed my backpack, and sent me to school with a kiss on the forehead. And almost every afternoon, she'd be standing outside her door waiting for me, waving with that gentle smile. But everything changed when I reached my junior year of high school. My grandmother passed away. Her loss hit our family harder than any of us admitted. For years, she had been the silent backbone of our routine. Without her, our days shifted. I started coming straight home from school. My mother started working longer shifts. My father became quieter. And our apartment? Our apartment started feeling different. Not immediately, not all at once, but slowly, like a door that begins to creak open on its own. The phone that wouldn't stay hung up. It began with something small. My mom had an old 1980s corded push-button phone on her bedside table. Beige, scratched, heavy. The kind of phone that felt like it had survived several decades and wasn't interested in dying anytime soon. One evening, my mother came home from work, walked into her room, and found the receiver resting beside the base. Not fallen, placed. She asked if I had used it. I told her I hadn't. The next day, same thing. The day after that, again. Every afternoon, when she unlocked the door and entered her room, she found the receiver sitting just far enough from the base that the cord was stretched tight, like someone had pulled it intentionally and left it there. But I wasn't using the phone. I hardly even touched it. My mother assumed I was absent-minded, careless. She didn't ask again, she just sighed and put it back each night. But the phone wasn't falling. It was being moved. And I didn't know that yet. The layout of the apartment. Our apartment wasn't big. From the front door, the entire interior was visible in one glance. Straight ahead was the living room. To the left, the dining space. Just beyond that, my mother's tiny kitchen. A short hallway split off to the right. One door led to my parents' bedroom, one to mine. There were no other hallways, no closets big enough for anyone to hide inside, no back entrance, and no balcony. Every window was a narrow casement window with mesh screens that had been painted shut for years. We lived on the third floor. The outside ledge wasn't wide enough for a person to stand on. If someone had been inside the apartment, I would have seen them. That's what makes everything that happened next so impossible. The footsteps. One day, I arrived home earlier than usual. I remember the exact moment I turned my key, pushed the door open, and stepped inside. My backpack was still hanging from one shoulder. My shoes were still half tied. And the apartment greeted me with silence. But it wasn't empty. I knew, instantly, it wasn't empty. Because the moment the door clicked shut behind me, I heard it. 2 clear, heavy footsteps. They came from my parents' room. Slow, human, measured. I froze. Not skipped, froze. I didn't think. I didn't prepare. I didn't even breathe. I dropped my bag and ran straight down the hallway. It took maybe 2 seconds to reach my parents' room. 2 seconds in which I convinced myself that maybe, somehow, my father had come home early. I grabbed the doorknob, turned it, and burst inside. But the room was empty. Not the maybe someone ducked behind the bed, empty. Not the someone ran into the closet, empty. It was the kind of empty that hits you like cold water. Clean, still, unnatural. No one had passed me, no window had opened, no furniture had shifted, and yet, something had been in that room. My eyes scanned the space, searching for anything out of place, and then I saw it. The phone receiver. Not on the bed, not beside the phone, on the floor. Lying at an angle so unnatural that my brain refused to accept it as an accident. The cord was stretched tight, pulled as far as it could possibly go, like someone had yanked the receiver off the base and placed it carefully on the floor. Not dropped, placed. I knelt down and picked it up, and as I did, a chill climbed the back of my neck, slow, creeping, deliberate.
Road trip, eh?
I tried to replicate the way I had found it. I shook the bedside table, I nudged the phone, I slapped the receiver. Every single time, the receiver either fell onto the table or slid down to the carpet directly below. Never once did it land in the position I'd found it. To recreate it, I had to pull the cord taut, stretch it fully, place the receiver on the exact spot, and hold it for a second so it wouldn't snap back. There was no way, absolutely no way, that it got there by accident. My hands were shaking, but I hung the receiver back on the base, and the moment I did, the phone rang. The timing was so unreal, so perfectly wrong, that I jumped back a full step. I picked it up and answered it. It was my dad. The call no one made. He sounded nervous, breathless. He asked me, "What happened?" I told him, "Nothing. Why?" And then he said something that made every hair on my arm stand up. He said that he had called the house just a few minutes earlier. Someone had picked up the phone, not after a few rings, immediately, like they were standing over it, waiting. But whoever answered never spoke. My dad assumed it was me. Maybe I was upset, maybe I was sick, maybe something had happened. But I wasn't home. I hadn't answered any call. There was no one in the apartment. No one living, at least. He hung up, I hung up, and I stood there in the silent bedroom, staring at the phone, still warm from when someone had touched it before me. Someone who wasn't my mother. Someone who wasn't me. Someone who wasn't my dad. Someone who shouldn't exist. After that day, my mother never found the phone disturbed again. Not once. Whatever had been there, whatever had walked those 2 slow, deliberate steps, Whatever had lifted the receiver listened to my father's voice and placed it carefully on the floor. It never came back. Or at least, it never made itself known again.
But our apartment never felt the way it used to. There was always a heaviness in the air, a sense that something had completed whatever it needed to do and quietly faded away. Sometimes I wonder if it was my grandmother, if she came back out of habit, if she was checking the house the way she used to check on me every morning. Sometimes I wonder if it wasn't her at all. Sometimes the dead come home because they miss us, and sometimes they come back for reasons we may never understand. But the footsteps, those two slow footsteps, still echo in my memory. And to this day, I still don't know who or what was walking in our house after my grandmother died. If you felt a chill listening to this story, imagine living through it. And if you want more real, unexplained experiences like this one, don't forget to like, share, and comment your thoughts below. I read every comment. And of course, subscribe for more stories that stay with you long after the video ends.